Hello, my name is Tyler, and I'm a senior this year in high school, and I'll be teaching you about the basics of C and C++ and just the background behind them. And C was first invented in the 1990s as a part of the Unix family of operating systems, and this is just showing how powerful that C can be. They wrote different operating systems in it, such as Linux, which is in the Unix family, and Linux is even being used in some of the new battleships in the Navy, and this just shows how powerful C can be, even though it's such a low-level language. And one of the basic things about C is that it uses if-then statements and it's function-based, so this makes it really easy to learn and understand. And for my project, I used an LLVM, which is a low-level virtual machine, and the one that I used is called Eclipse, and it's just really easy to learn in it, and it'll tell you exactly what you're doing wrong. And then I used Clang 4.1, and then there's also newer ones coming out, but you can use the newer ones, but it doesn't really matter as long as you have 4.1 or later. And Clang just stands for C language. And over the years, there's been a couple different standard versions of C, such as KNRC, which was the early 1980s, ANSI C, which is C89 and C90. Those came out in 1989 and 1990. And C99 is the most recent, and it came out in 1999. And it's just been the basis for all C languages since then, because there's no reason to update it. And there's a couple rules for C, such as you always have to assign a variable a specific value. Like x has to be assigned to, like, let's say 5, or else x will mean nothing. And you always want to use fgets instead of gets, because the gets function for some reason just sucks up a lot of processing power, and it can completely crash your computer and just delete all of your work that you didn't save. You always have to have a main function also, and what this does is it just shows the compiler where your coding is actually starting. And I'll show you this later on whenever I show you Eclipse. And you also have these squiggly brackets, which shows just all of your lines of code in a block, and then you have to have semicolons at the end of each line, or else the compiler won't be able to tell where one line ends and where the next one begins, and that makes it really hard to code. And for the variables, a variable is just a typed in named location, like x, and so then you can manipulate it to almost any value that you want, such as like x equals a specific number, or a specific number of characters in a statement, or just like a month, or anything that you really want. And then the C languages use the Latin alphabet, which is just A through Z, pretty basic. Just don't try to go outside of that and you'll be fine. And it also uses the Western Arabic numerals, which is just 0 through 9, which obviously isn't very difficult. And then uses underscores because spaces can really mess things up if you're just writing a statement, so you really want to use underscores as much as you can. And then C++ is a C-based language, and it's a medium level language, which means it's a bit more powerful, but it's also harder to learn. And it's objective based, and it can do just about anything that C can do. So if you can code in C, you can probably just go in C++ and just code something. And one of the main things about it is polymorphism, and what this does is it allows you to have a statement mean more than one thing, such as a plus sign, where in C++ a plus sign can mean that you're just adding a decimal onto a number, or that you're adding two numbers together, or that you are trying to add a statement onto another one. Whereas in C, the plus, all that means is that you're adding two numbers. And here's the list of reserved words for C++. And all this does is just that these are the statements that have a specific meaning and you can't change them. Some of the differences between C and C++ are just like the in and out functions, such as cout and cin. And cout is just used to display something that you've just coded, and it will show in the compiler and to whoever's using the program that one specific thing. And printf does the same thing in C. And then the cin and scanf, all this does is it just allows you to input things into your code instead of writing out the entire block of code again or copying and pasting it. So it just allows you to have a little bit more freedom. So why should you use C? You should use C because it's a really easy language to learn, and almost anyone can learn it, and it's just such a powerful language that you can do just about anything that you want in it in a basic level. So there's really no reason to go any farther than C unless you're really going into programming. And it's just so powerful and easy to learn that it's just so useful. And here's an example of a program. I didn't write the entire thing by myself, but here's just some stuff that I can explain. Here's the main function, and this is just showing where my code is started. It just tells the program this is where I'm starting to code things, and it will start from there, not any farther behind. And as you can see, I have the x equal to the amount of letters that are in the hello world statement, and that will just be 14 because including the spaces and the comma adds up to 14. And then as you can see, I have the semicolon at the end of each statement. Also just run on and it won't know what I'm talking about. I'm just going to delete this ×5 and run it. I'm going to ask if I want to save the changes I just did and just click yes. Take just a second to run it. And as you can see, it says hello world just like it's supposed to, and then it also says the amount of characters that are in the hello world, and it displays the hello world because of the printf will show just what is inside those brackets up there. And then if I do ×5, it won't show the hello world five times because it's not inside the same brackets, but it will try to have the x value equal the amount of letters ×5. So it's just changing the variable, it's not changing what it's saying, which the 14 times the 5 will be 70. Then I'll just show you what happens whenever you delete a semicolon. You get a little question mark right here, and then you get an error, and it won't be able to run it because it thinks that those two lines of code is the same statement, and it can't recognize that because it's incorrect. So once you just add it back in, it'll run. And this is also just proof that Eclipse is just so easy to learn in because it'll tell you exactly what you're doing wrong, which really helps you out so that you can just mess around and not have to follow exact videos. So if you really just want to learn how to code, just start in C, as it's one of the most basic but powerful languages out there. And I think that everyone should learn how to code in C because our entire world is becoming technology, and once you understand your technology better, you'll be able to figure it out a lot more.